We've been known as the Humane Society of the United States, but as the challenges animals face have grown, so have we. We are now called Humane World for Animals. And if you love animals, you're part of our world. Humane World for Animals. The end of animal cruelty.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that wasn't your fault, we have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5220. So if you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, call now. Find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5220 to speak with a live person now.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable, a look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome in. It's Wednesday morning here in Murfreesboro, and welcome into the Roundtable on WGNS. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates, and the Blue Raider Network, and we're going to be talking lawns and gardens and shrubs and trees and critters and all of that with Mitchell Moat of the Extension Office here at in Rutherford County. But first, we're going to bring in Middle Tennessee basketball coach Nick McDevitt, Coach, your ball club's got a huge week ahead of it. It all starts tomorrow night with a big game against Liberty, and I know one thing you'd like to share that with several thousand of your closest friends at Murphy Center on Thursday night.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Chip. We got a big week in front of us. Obviously, a big one tomorrow night against Liberty. We're both in the championship hunt as the season is winding down. Obviously, Saturday is the last regular season game for everybody in our league. It's senior day for us, so that too will be a big one. But as we approach the end here, we find ourselves in a championship race, and Thursday's a big one, and we need a big crowd. Would love all of Blue Raider Nation to be there at the Murphy Center.
Yeah, you know, if am I right doing my math here that if you win both this week, you're no worse than tying for the championship? Is that right?
That is correct. If we go 2-0, we'll at least share the regular season championship. With a little bit of help, we can get it outright. But we do control our own destiny, so to say. With 2 wins, we'll at least share the regular season championship. And that's what you set out to do in the summer when you get together as a team, is put yourself in a spot to win 2 championships, a regular season championship, and obviously that postseason championship, win your conference tournament. And here we are. We've got a chance to do that, and we need a good week.
What do you think's made this group so special?
I think 2 things, Chip. You know, we're an older group, a mature group. 9 of our players are 22 or older. So we've just got an experienced bunch. But coupled with that, and I think the most important, is they like each other. You know, they just gelled and meshed well. You could see the team chemistry starting to form early on in the summer, and it's just continued throughout the course of the year. They enjoy not just playing with each other, they hang out a lot together off the court. You travel with us all the time, so you've seen it, whether it's been in the airports, at shoot-arounds, at team meals, team functions. They just enjoy being around each other, and I think a team that plays for each other as opposed to just with each other, that small difference is seen on the court, and that's kind of what this team has grasped onto this year. All
right. Well, I know you've got practice this morning and getting ready for Liberty tomorrow night at 6:30, and just wanted to give folks an opportunity to hear you and let them know that tickets are available at goblueraiders.com/tickets. So we'll talk to you later on, okay? Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on, Chip.
All right, appreciate it. Coach Nick McDevitt there, and we hope that Nick can delay his piddling around in his yard until much later on in the month of March. Mitchell Mote, as we mentioned, is with us today. If you've got questions about your yard, grass, whatever it may be, text us at 615-893-1450. That's 615-893-1450. And so, Mitchell, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Chip. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you coming on. I sent you an email, month and a half ago. I said, when would be a good time to come on here and just kind of get, because people, there are a couple of things that happen. Either people start too early or start too late dealing with stuff in their yards. And there's a little meme that goes around about this time every year. It says Tennessee actually has 12 seasons, and it has them listed. It has winter, fool's spring, second winter, spring of deception, which we are in this morning. This afternoon we'll be in the third winter.
Third winter, I guess, yes.
And then it gets into the pollinating, actual spring, summer, Hades front porch, false fall, summer, second summer, and actual fall. So it's the old saying: if you don't like the weather, hang around for a little while.
The heck of it is, we might go through all 12 of those here in the next 3 weeks.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Well, tell us what's going on out at the Extension office right now, as you all kind of get prepared for the growing season, whether it's gardens or yards or whatever. What all do you all do during this time of year to kind of prepare?
This time of year, we have a lot of planned trainings offered to the public. So the Master Gardener intern class is underway now. It started back in January, and it'll continue once a week up through sometime in April. I forget exactly just when the end date is on that. Actually, this coming Saturday, the 8th, at 9 o'clock, we have a lawn and landscape weed science class out at the auditorium there at Land Park. Starts at 9 o'clock. Be looking at resources to help folks identify weeds if they're common in their lawn and landscape, as well as some resources that will allow them to choose a protocol if they choose to control weeds. How you do that. And then, weather permitting, we'll do a walk around of the outside turf demonstration area to identify some common weeds. Later on this month, March 26th, I believe is the first date, there's going to be a series. It's on the native plants and the ecology of cedar glades. Justin Stefanski, my coworker, is heading that up. As I said, it starts on the 26th of March. It's from 6 to 7 in the evening out at Lane Park in the community center building. That's where the classroom portion is. There are 3 sessions there: March 26th, April 2nd, and April the 9th. But there are also 3 field hikes associated with this, or maybe even 4. But there's a couple in April and one in May, and those are daytime hikes from like 9 until noon. There's been a fair amount of interest in this.
Is it out here at the Cedar Glades off of Industrial?
Well, I don't know exactly where they're going. They're going to go to multiple locations.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's not just a single location for these field hikes, because you're talking 3 hours per hike. So they'll have an opportunity to cover a fair amount of ground, a fair amount of territory. But they'll be looking, like I said, at the ecology of the cedar glade, native plants that are found there, how you can utilize some of these native plants in your own landscapes, things like that.
What is the difference in just having some cedar trees as opposed to a cedar glade, and what does that mean?
Yeah, cedar glade. So you're talking about it's a cedar tree can grow most anywhere. It can grow in the middle of a rock. It can grow. It can grow in the deepest, most fertile ground out there. But a cedar glade is one. It's the geology, I guess, would be the way to describe it, of the location. It's going to be, typically more thin soil, fairly. You got a lot of limestone present there. You'll see.
Which that would mean Rutherford County.
Well, lots of opportunities to have cedar glade type places in Rutherford County. Well, and here in the Central Basin,
right.
A lot of locations like that. You'll see some plants like sedums, for example, that'll grow on those shallow soils that are pretty close to limestone. And soil pH is typically going to be a little different in that cedar glade because you think about adjusting soil pH, and that's you're talking about the acidity or the alkalinity of the soil. And how do you do that? Well, if soil is too acid, the pH is low. Well, how do we adjust it? We add limestone to it. Okay, crushed up limestone rock. That's what lime is. So you typically going to have maybe a little different pH in those areas. So that influences kind of the plants you see growing there.
I'll tell you what, the area I mentioned. If you go out Halls Hill Pike and turn right on Industrial,
mm-hmm.
and there's an area there that I don't know if it's the Land Conservancy or who, but it has it has 2 loops in there, 3 mile and a 4 mile loop that is one of my favorite places to go. And because it's fairly flat, it's
and I think
it's
that's
easy.
A characteristic of glade.
Yeah,
it tends to be flat.
And there's a ton of different, especially the time of the year you go. There's in the spring tons of wildflowers,
A lot of color.
Yeah, a lot of color out there. In that. So if you're looking for kind of a little well kept secret, and you like to and you want to get into maybe doing more walking, doing some hiking, that would be a great place to do it. Going back to the class that's on Saturday, recognizing weeds and grasses. You said you all have a demonstration area outside.
We have turf demonstration site.
Do you actually have a site where you grow weeds?
We have a site where I don't discourage their growth.
Okay.
That's typically, you don't have to go to any effort to grow weeds usually.
That's correct. If you can't grow anything else, you can grow weeds.
Exactly.
But I would think that for folks who think I need to get my yard in shape, that would be a great class to go to, because you can recognize, you get a good idea of, here's what is in my yard.
This is what I have.
Yeah.
Why do I have it? I mean, that's what we're going to talk about there.
Yeah.
Do you have weeds because you're a bad person? Well, I don't know if you're a bad person or not. I think bad people and good people both can have weeds in your yard.
Yeah.
But there are generally reasons why you have weeds, and so we'll talk about those kind of things. And then, what and do you have to do anything about it? No, that's your choice. That's your choice. But if you want to, then there are certainly ways that any homeowner can utilize and be pretty darn successful if they choose to do that.
Now, when you have a weedy yard and you want to get back to where it looks like a fairway, and what are the ways to go about it? Obviously, you've got chemicals and things like that. Are there natural ways where you can kind of choke out some of the weeds, things like that?
You said get back to where it looks like a fairway, and I would start right there.
Okay.
Is that a realistic expectation?
Well, you're probably right.
Is that a realistic expectation? For a lot of people, it's not. Simply because they don't have they don't have the resources necessary for that to happen. Do you have the ability to provide rain when it doesn't rain? Mm-hmm. Do you have irrigation available? Because regardless of the kind of grass you're trying to grow, whether it's a hot weather grass like Bermuda grass, soy grass, or a cool season grass like our dominant one's tall fescue, is going to stress when it doesn't get enough rain, when the heat gets to a certain level, or for the warm season grasses, when it's not warm enough early enough. It delays their breaking dormancy and starting to grow and so on. So things that you need to do in order, though, to give it the best chance of being a good turf population as possible, start with soil fertility. Does the soil have any native fertility to it? How do you know? Well, you've got to measure that. So you do that with a soil test. And that's going to tell you what soil pH is, as well as what fertility level is out of some of those major nutrients that are essential nutrients that all plants, including grasses, are going to need. And then you start with that. And if there is a pH issue, you address that. You do something to correct that. If it's too acid, you're going to add some lime to it to lower that or to raise that pH up. If it's and this is a very rare occurrence, if it's more on the alkaline side, then you need to acidify a little bit. And you can do that with just something as simple as elemental sulfur. That'll lower that pH down. So you get soil fertility where it needs to be. Then if you do have undesirable plants, then you take those out. And different ways to do that. I mean, you can physically remove them. Okay, it's always an option, but you also
that's called pulling weeds.
That's called pulling the weeds, and if you want, it's not only does it work, it's good exercise too. But I really encourage every child ought to have an opportunity to do that at some point in their life.
Exactly.
I think that's going to build some character anyway. But then you've got herbicide options available too to remove, especially if you've got large areas. I mean, it's just really more feasible to do something like that, using herbicide to take that population down, and then to introduce or to plant the desirable grass species that you want. And then once you get it established, then you want to follow those good agronomic practices or good lawn care practices to give that grass the best chance of surviving and competing with any weeds that tend to want to grow back in. Because every plant that grew on a given piece of ground and was allowed to make a seed, it made a deposit into the seed bank of that soil. And so when the ground cover gets thinned out enough and you're getting sunlight and moisture and so on to that ground, and just through time and just through actions and whatnot, some of those seed in the seed bank, get worked up close enough to the surface where they can start to germinate. If they have an open space, they'll germinate and grow. So you want to do those things, good lawn care practices, good agronomic practices that will give the grass the best chance to maintain a dense population. So that's like mowing height, for example. Mm-hmm. Every grass.
You don't want to skin it.
Exactly. Every grass that we use as a turf grass today, it has been chosen because it has demonstrated its ability to maintain a dense population in spite of just repeated defoliation. And, mowing stresses grass. You're cutting away the sunlight receptors that it uses to catch sunlight, to photosynthesize, to make its own energy. The more you cut away, the more you stress it. But it's been determined through experimentation and research over time that, for example, tall fescue, if you don't ever go lower than 3 inches, you're going to minimize stress on that grass. If you don't remove more than roughly a third of the length of the grass blade at a time, you're minimizing the stress on that grass. So mowing correctly, mowing frequently enough. Is mowing once a week enough? Maybe not. Depends on how fast the grass is growing.
And that also depends on the time of the year.
Depends on the time of the year. For cool season grasses, tall fescue, it's going to take off here pretty soon and start growing.
Because basically we've got two kinds of yards around here. Fescue yards and Bermuda yards.
And Bermuda. Those are the primary ones, the dominant ones. Now, some folks have some zoysia grass, they do, and you'll have some bluegrass mixtures out there with some tall fescue, but those are the dominant ones. Yep.
We're going to talk, one of the things that always comes up in the conversation with Mitchell is every question you have, well, you might want to think about a soil test. We'll talk about soil test and how to go about that in our next segment. We're going to step aside and pay some bills. Back after this with Mitchell Mote of the Extension Service here on the Roundtable on WGNS. Chip Walters here with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. I was named a top 10 agent in the #1 Exit Realty office in America in 2021. The top question I get around town, how's the market? Good question. And the answer's changed a few times this year alone. I'd like to know what you've heard and share some solid data we have. Give me a call and let's have a cup of coffee and take a look at what's happening in your neighborhood. All my contact info is right on my website, choosechip.net. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Fellas, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low testosterone. Don't wait. Get checked by the experts at Low T Center. They have over a decade of experience helping patients achieve life-changing results with testosterone therapy, or TRT. And for established patients, they offer the convenience of physician-monitored at-home TRT with advanced personalized plans that include both lab testing and self-inject medication. Low T Center makes it easy, shipping directly to your door. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's health care.
Middle Point Landfill's Mike Klassen.
The next closest landfill from Middle Point right now is down in Lewisburg. The MTSU study estimated that's about $90 per ton of waste to get it there.
If we have to take our trash up the creek, that's a lot of travel without a paddle.
Only people that are going to be responsible for those costs are taxpayers.
The cost to take out the trash will trickle down to local residents and businesses.
You double the distance, you double the cost.
There's got to be a better way. The answer's here. That's Middle Point Landfill.
Alan Butcher.
Well, the thing I like about Adams Place is that when you come here, you're coming to a complete healthcare system. You start off in independent living, And then if you need additional care, you go to assisted living. And we also have a memory unit and a rehab unit.
Hi, this is Terry Deal at Adams Place. Call me for more information about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111.
Adams Place on Memorial across from Walmart.
Are you tired of feeling like just another number with your insurance provider? At Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, Agent Rick Hall prides himself on offering personalized service that puts you first. Every client's needs are unique. From personal home and auto coverage to tailored business insurance, Rick Hall's got you covered. Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, where you're more than just a policy number. You're a neighbor.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
When a family member is lost as a result of someone else's negligence, the grief can be unbearable. It also leaves you with a lot of questions like, how did this happen? Who's responsible? And is my family going to be okay? That's a lot to go through, but with the law offices of John Day on your side, you don't have to go through any of it alone. We understand what you're going through, and we have the experience to get the answers, justice, and compensation your family deserves. Call the law offices of John Day.
WGNS Good Neighbor Events. We Remember You, a dementia caregiver support group meeting over at the Villages of Murfreesboro on the second Tuesday of each month at 4 in the afternoon. We Remember You. And the Villages of Murfreesboro's location, 2550 Willow Oak Trail. Now listen closely. The 14th annual Special Kids Race is not this Saturday, but a week away, Saturday, March 15th. And that's over at the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic on Garrison Drive, just a week away. And the Parkinson Support Group meets on the first and third Friday of each month at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. Learn about local history. The Rutherford County Historical Society invites you to come on by the one-room Ransom Schoolhouse. And this local history event is Saturday morning from 9 until noon. It's free. Again, Ransom School is at 717 North Academy Street here in Murfreesboro. Remember, this coming weekend is when we change time. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor Events.
Rutherford weather.
A wind advisory remains in effect. We'll see a few spotty rain showers here for this afternoon with cloudy skies. Temperatures steady early, then slowly falling throughout the day. Tonight, cloudy, low of 31. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 52.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios, MTE Sharing Change is funded by members who round up their electric bills to the nearest dollar each month as a donation and support hundreds of local nonprofits. Find out more at sharingchange.org.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back in. Wednesday Roundtable. Chip Walters here and Mitchell Moat from the UT-TSU Extension Office out on the west side of town. And Mitchell, when a lot of times I'll ask you a question about something in a yard or in a garden or whatever, and one of the first things you'll say is, well, you need to get a soil test. So let's talk about that and how that happens. How do you for somebody who may be a first-time homeowner, wants to, this will be the first summer in their new house and they want to figure out, or somebody who's been in their house for 50 years and they might need to, find out what is the procedure and how you go about it.
Sure. So it's easy. All right, it's easy. If it weren't easy, then, I sure couldn't do it. So let's talk about sampling, say, a lawn area. Let's back up just a minute. If it's a new house and you move in, it's your first house or your second house, whatever the case, and you're thinking, okay, I've got this brand new house. It's a clean canvas. I can paint this thing any way I want to. So I want to have a grass area. I want to have some flower beds. I want to have shrubs. I want to have a place over here to grow some vegetables and so on. All right, so that's you're in a great spot. in that case because it is new. It hasn't been managed intensively in a particular way, most likely. So what you can do is if as best you can tell that lot, okay, or that yard area is pretty uniform. And by that I mean, is it pretty much on the same level? Do you have any huge elevation changes from the front yard to the backyard, side yard, etc., things like that? If it's pretty much uniform, and you can really tell a lot about it by going out and digging a hole here or there in the ground. If it's pretty uniform, then you can sample that entire lawn area because it's all about the same. That's the same. So what you do is get something to dig with. Shovel works great, and a plastic bucket to put these soil samples in, because you're going to have to take multiple sub-samples from across the yard and mix those together and create a composite of the entire lawn. If you go out to just one spot in the middle of the yard, you dig down 6 inches, pull out that 6-inch soil sample, and say, okay, this is my sample. Does that represent the lawn, or does it just represent that one spot? So what you're trying to do is get kind of good average representation. So start over in one corner of the yard, take that shovel, take the top 6 inches of the soil. Take any trash, what I say trash, plant residue, sticks, rocks, roots, etc., things like that out, and then put that slice over in the bucket, and then just kind of a zigzag, sort of a random pattern, walking W, back and forth across the yard, side yard, front yard. A typical yard here where we live, if you go to a dozen locations and you do that each time, and you mix all that together, you've got a pretty good representative sample of that yard space. And that is a very adequate sample to have tested. Now, once you've got your sample, okay, now, and there's more than one soil lab that people can utilize. Now, at the University of Tennessee, we have a soil lab. It's at the UT Soil Plant and Pest Center, which is located on the campus of Ellington Ag Center in Nashville.
Right.
Once you have your sample, you can send it to the lab yourself. You can carry it there yourself. If you want to see where the lab is, anybody can walk in and deposit a soil sample there.
And just right around Ellington Ag Center is really nice.
Beautiful place up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to see the place, it's kind of worth the trip sometime if you have the time to do that. But you can go to if you want to do this yourself, you can go to the UT Soil Plant Pest Center website. You can download an information sheet that you're going to fill out. All right, it's going to put your personal information on it, your contact information, and then you're going to list on there your sample. Okay, if you have a single sample, then you give it a sample number or a name. Well, one works awfully well if you just have one sample. Now, when it comes into, when that becomes more significant, I guess, is if you have a large piece of ground, you've got 3 or 4 samples, you want to remember, sample 1 is this area over here, sample 2. So you need to designate those somehow, and that's why those sample numbers are important to identify those. And then you list the crops you're going to grow, whether it's cool season turf grass, warm season turf grass, whether it's vegetable crop, home vegetable garden, whether it's going to be shade trees, non-acid loving shrubs, acid loving shrubs, things like that. And you package it up and you send it to the lab, or you put it in a Ziploc bag and you hand carry it to the lab. You take your information sheet with you, and you go in, you drop it off there to the nice folks, and they'll you'll pay for your test, and they'll write your receipt. And
what does that run?
And so if you a soil sample or a soil test, if you carry it there yourself, if you ship it there yourself, the cost of the test is $15.
Okay.
Now, the other option is, collect your sample and bring it to the local extension office, 315 John R. Rice Boulevard, Suite 101, 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Bring it in. We've got the paperwork there, and we also have these official little soil sample boxes that you can put the soil in. You'll put your information on the box just like you did on the information sheet, and those two will go together. And then you can leave it there. And we will get it to the lab for you.
It might take a little longer.
It may take a little bit longer because, typically what happens is somebody from the office will go once a week, to the lab and carry those there. If we carry them there, then there's an additional $5 charge. So
$20. $20
is what it costs. For the information you get back,
to me, that would be the best way.
Man, it can save you so much aggravation.
And also, if they bring it out to you guys, that it's going to be packaged correctly.
Well, we're going to make sure that you ask for what you really want.
Right, exactly,
yes.
exactly.
Yes.
And again, it's out on John Rice Boulevard, out there past Sam's Club.
Just right down past Sam's, adjacent to, next door to Paul's, the animal control, Rutherford County Animal Control. And again, 315 is the street address. Suite 101 is the office address.
And so
just come in there.
And you said generally most yards, if they need something, it's going to need a little alkaline, right?
It typically. Ours typically tend to, even though we have a fair amount of limestone, we tend to have more yards that will be slightly acid versus
slightly okay.
Okay, typically, and for some crops it doesn't matter. That's fine. As a matter of fact, some crops need to be very acid. For example, if you want to grow blueberries, if you want to grow turf grass, you're talking about a 6.2 to a 7 pH range. That's where you want to be, which is 7 is neutral. Anything below 7 is acid. The further away from 7 you get, the more acid it gets. So, you're slightly acid.
Right.
Okay, a blueberry, it likes a pH down in the high 4s.
Really?
Yeah, it needs an acid soil. If you don't get that soil acidified properly before you put the blueberry in the ground, it's not going to be a good experience for you.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, we talked about grass a little bit. Before we take our next break, I want to get into shrubs a little bit because we've had 2 cold spells over the last 2 winters that I remember December 22nd of 2023 when that came in, and it devastated boxwoods.
Oh, it hurt boxwoods. It hurt laurels.
Yeah, all across. And then this past winter, we got down to 0.
We were in the 0, yeah.
And so, what kind of effect are you all seeing on whether it's grass or shrubs in people's yards from the cold snaps that we've had over the last 2 years?
So this year,
it wasn't as prolonged.
Lot. Yeah, not so far.
That
not
was a
lot.
booger 2 years ago.
Oh, it was. That was not just a cold snap. That was a flash freeze. When you had anywhere from 50. Well, you roughly had a 50-odd degree temperature drop in less than 24 hours. And
I got a good story I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay, so that, it caught those plants totally unaware, and it literally froze that tissue, and you could see some of these evergreens, ice crystals pushed out of the plant where the fluid inside the plant froze. It killed a lot of above ground tissue, and now surprisingly, it did not kill. If those were established shrubs, been there a long time, it did not kill that root system. And if folks were patient and they cut that dead material off the top, 2 years later, I've got a reasonably decent looking shrub left there. A lot of folks, that's, I don't want to wait like that. I don't want to look bad. So they went ahead and removed those and replaced them with something. Well,
the other thing that happened too was when that happened, that follong spring and summer, the prices of boxwoods went through the roof.
They did because, not only were yours and your landscape damaged, but the ones in the nursery, they were damaged too. So the supply was not there. What I started to say was, laurels were hit really bad. Skip laurels and Alalucan laurels. And folks said, well, should I plant these anymore? These are too much of a risk. Well, for most of us, most folks, that's the first time we ever saw anything like that in our life. So just because it happened one time, does that mean you need to stop using this plant? I don't know that that's enough reason to say, no, you should never plant another laurel.
Yeah, right.
Now, if it starts occurring every year, if we have enough change in our weather patterns for that to happen, okay, maybe so. But I wouldn't base it just strictly on that one instance, I don't think.
That morning, I was flying out to meet the MTSU football team. They had already gone to Honolulu in Hawaii. I left that morning I met my crew at 8 o'clock, whatever, that morning. It was 50 degrees when we left. We had a flight on United through Denver, landed 3 hours later in Denver. It was 24 below zero. And obviously that was moving this way. Yeah. It was 24 below zero, and we were there for 4 hours. The jetway was frozen to the asphalt.
They couldn't move
it. They had to get out there with shovels and where they could get the jetway up to the plane. So I had gone from 50 to minus 24. That's
74 degree drop.
76 degree drop.
Okay.
76 degree drop. Now, I'm there for 4 hours. We leave. It's still 24 degrees below zero. From Denver to Honolulu, we go from 24 below to 85. And so...
you talk about an extreme weather event. You experienced it that day.
That day is the most. Yeah. I had another experience from the Bahamas to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that went from 95 to 7 below, but it was not as much as 24 below to 85 above, which was kind of
huge.
That was crazy. But,
yes, it was.
But And you talked about being patient with the boxwoods and things like that. The guy who helped me change out some he told me exactly that. He goes, I think these are going to be okay. He goes, but I had some dwarf boxwoods in front of my house, and they had some brown areas, but there was still some green there.
Some green in there, yep.
And he said, these I think are going to make it. He goes, but they're not going to look good this year.
Right, going to be ugly, especially when you go and you cut that dead stuff away, because it does no good to leave it.
But does it hurt to leave it, or do you need to go ahead and get it?
I'd recommend cutting it away.
Okay.
I would. So if you've got, anytime you've got dead areas in trees or shrubs, it's typically always recommended to go ahead and remove that.
Yeah. Did the deep freeze, did it affect grass at all?
There were some areas where some of the warm season grasses,
like Bermuda.
Bermuda grass, was areas where it was killed. Now, I was trying to think, when was this? We had an episode years ago. I mean, this was in the previous century when this occurred. But we had that January cold spell, and I think it destroyed, it killed all the Bermuda grass out at Old Fort, the golf course out there. It got down below zero for an extended period of time and stayed down there like that. And we've had some instances like that, those polar vortexes we had, like in 14, 13, along in there. And there was some local athletic fields in Bermuda grass. They had some damaged areas in them, but not entire populations were wiped out. Some damaged areas like that. Yeah. Cool season grasses typically came out of it okay. They looked bad for a while, but they outgrew that.
Yeah. So, all right, Mitchell Mote is our guest from the Extension Office. Again, if you've got any questions, you can text them to us, 615-893-1450. We're going to transition into your summer garden when we return right after this on the Roundtable on WGNS.
First Shot, growing in Christ with life and athletic skills.
So we teach God's Word at everything we do to implant it in them so that they understand that the only way to get through the world is with God on their side.
First Shot founder and executive director Andy Herzer.
Our focus is on our inner city here at Patterson Park.
From academics to athletics, First Shot's focus is toward building a stronger, more courageous spirit to face opportunities and obstacles that our youth confront every day. To find out more about First Shot, go to firstshottn.org.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-457-6060. That's 1-800-457-6060. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-457-6060. That's 1-800-457-6060.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
If you can dream it, Farrah Construction can turn it into reality. Shop local, Farrah Construction Company. I'm Ron Hall. Investing in property can be nerve-wracking. It does not have to be. Farrah Construction offers high-quality craftsmanship, quick response, and attention to detail. Our goal is to keep your expenses low while focusing on our attention on high-quality services. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
All right, guys, it's Scott. If you're feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, gaining weight, or noticing a loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Don't wait. Find out now. At Low T Center here in Murfreesboro on Medical Center Parkway, they make it easy to get your levels checked. And with their on-site lab, you'll get those results back in about 25 minutes. Low T Center is not a typical doctor's office. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone with customized therapy, or TRT, for each patient. The experts at Low T Center have over a decade of experience helping patients achieve life-changing results. And most health insurance is accepted for treatment. For established patients with stable T levels, they also offer a convenient physician-monitored self-inject treatment plan that ships directly to your home each month without the need to come into the office for weekly visits. And at Low T Center, you can also get your health evaluated for treatment with prescription GLP-1 weight loss medications. Yep, you can lose weight. Get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's health care.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back in. Final 15 minutes. Mitchell Moat from the Rutherford County Extension Office from UT and TSU, and we're talking yards and gardens. We've hit the lawns pretty good. If we missed anything folks need to know,
one thing
quick,
I might say on the yards before we transition over to talking about vegetable gardens is if your goal is to help keep crabgrass out of your turf this year, whether you have cool season grass like tall fescue or warm season like Bermuda grass, we are entering that window when those pre-emerge products need to be applied. Because if
pre-emergent means
prior to emergence, prior to germination, because that crabgrass got to germinate every year from seed. So we are entering that time frame when typically crabgrass conditions or germination conditions occur here. So this early part of March, you go out, you make the application. If you got cool season grass, use one of the products with the fertilizer. That's fine because the grass can utilize it. If you got a warm season grass like Bermuda grass, it's not growing, so it can't use that fertilizer, so it'd be kind of a waste of using a fertilizer pre-emerge combination. Just use a pre-emerge by itself to have the best efficiency, I guess, and make the best use of your resource. But think about doing that if that is a goal, to keep crabgrass down, because pre-emergent is an excellent tool. It needs to be part of the arsenal to fight crabgrass.
It does not affect your grass, though. The grass
it's
you
not
want to grow.
Impact, no, the grass you want to, so long, unless you're trying to plant it at the same time.
Right.
Okay, now, but no, what's existing is not, has no impact on it.
Okay, good. And if you go to the Co-op Lawn Garden Center, they can help you out there. Folks out at Dickens can help you out there.
Every garden center right now, they're getting geared up, and they're
Valley Growers, all those people can help you.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah. And again, Saturday morning there is the class.
Yeah, lawn and landscape weed science.
If you want to get your yard in shape, is that a free class?
It's a free class, and we're focused on weed control, but we'll address some agronomic.
And whatever. And y'all are great about answering questions. All right, we're here. We are first week of March. And the folks who put in their gardens are itching to.
Oh, they are.
They're itching to do something.
And you know what? I mean, it's garden season.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Cool season vegetables, things like your radishes and onions and cabbage.
Can you get those onion sets out now?
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't matter because we may have some more snow.
May do it, but they're going to tolerate that. They're going to tolerate it all right. Folks that have raised beds, you have an advantage over folks that use traditional in-ground gardens, because those raised beds, after the rain last night, they'll dry out faster because you've got elevation there, and gravity helps pull that water down. Plus, you're using, manufactured soil, bag soil, whatnot, a lot of organic matter in it, and it's just going to drain out faster anyway. But yeah, spring, March, typically any of those what you think about your cool season vegetables, your Brussels sprouts, your cauliflower, broccoli, onions, radishes.
What about the greens?
Yeah, if you
cabbage,
want mustard, lettuce, all those, this March is a time to think about planting those as soon as you can get your groundwork to ready to do it. But, You know, what are we all really waiting for? We're waiting for sweet
corn and tomatoes.
That's exactly right. Well, is it too early? Well, it depends. I guess it depends. Now, if you want, let's say you have a particular tomato variety, and you know that is the best tomato in the world in your estimation, and
Cherokee Purple.
Cherokee Purple. If that's your tomato,
That's
and
mine.
if the summer is not complete without an adequate supply of Cherokee Purple tomatoes, if you want to do something to ensure you have those, then you might think about growing your own transplants. So how do you do that? You order your seed. A lot of seed companies are they've got their new catalogs out now, whether it's an online catalog or a paper catalog. Order those seed. And if you're going to grow your own, like tomato transplants, pepper transplants, those kind of things, you'll want to start those seed indoors, roughly 8 weeks before you think about putting them in the ground outside.
So right now you'd be talking about
right
middle of
now,
May. If you did it now, you're
that's right.
talking early May.
You're ready for early May.
Okay.
And that is a very good time to think about it, because
that means you're going to get tomatoes
we're past the danger of frost.
End of June,
and
early July.
And hopefully, if things work right, you can have tomatoes on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something sure to think about. Now, for sweet corn, and we're talking about things that you're going to transplant, warm season crops that you transplant. So that's going to be your tomatoes, that's your peppers, things that you're going to seed directly into the garden, like your corn, like your green beans, like peas, so on. You're going to wait, and when I say peas, I'm talking field peas, black-eyed peas, purple hull peas, things like that. You're going to wait till the ground warms up enough. We're talking latter part of April, early part of May before we start direct seeding those things. But English peas, snap peas, sugar peas, absolutely right now is a good time for that. Put those in the ground.
You can put them in the ground.
Anything that we call cool crops.
Okay.
March is that time to start thinking about getting those planted.
And so you can look up what cool crops are and figure that out.
And I tell you, a great thing. We started this a few years ago. We have this publication, the Tennessee Home Fruit and Vegetable Garden Calendar.
I like that.
And this thing is it's got a chore list by month, and so I have a physical copy here in my hand, and we had some of these at the office, but they're all about gone right now. But you can download this thing. It's available. You can go to UTHort, H-O-R-T, uthort.com. It's available as a downloadable document. You can just save that and put it on your device, and just every month, look in there and see what should I be thinking about doing from a vegetable garden standpoint. And from a lawn care standpoint, we got the same thing for a home lawn calendar.
How about that?
And again, you go to uthort.com and you can download the 2025 lawn maintenance calendar, the 2025 Tennessee fruit and vegetable garden calendar, and it's got your monthly tasks listed there for whatever grass you're growing or for whatever crop you're trying to grow in your home vegetable garden.
Yeah. So right now, folks, if you want to have tomatoes on the 4th of July out of your own garden, and you want to grow them from seed right now.
Right now's the time.
Now's the time to do that. Now, do you have a favorite variety, or like, to me, if I'm going to have a tomato sandwich, I want Cherokee Purple.
I like.
But I like other kinds of varieties for other things.
The only, I guess the only really bad tomato would be a rotten tomato.
That's right. That's
the only really bad one. And I'll be honest with you, Chip. When we have COVID, 2020.
Yeah.
Well, I had the first case of COVID I ever had in December 2020. My taste buds have been screwed up so bad ever since then. Tomatoes don't taste the same anymore as they used to. So I still eat tomatoes, but they do not taste like they used to. So prior
to COVID,
a
you thing. That's not an us thing.
That's right. That's me. That's my problem. So my point was, prior to that, from just a pure eating pleasure standpoint, I enjoyed those tomatoes, a little lower acid, lighter red coloration, like a Cherokee Purple, like your Bradleys, those kind.
Right.
But I'm like you, Jet Stars were great. As far as growing tomatoes, I love Jet Stars because they put on a heavy crop. They're a prolific producer. And, they got some disease resistance built in. Celebrity's another good one. But there's a lot of good tomato options out there, both the traditional heirloom kind as well as more modern varieties.
Yeah, and they have, through, genetics have come up with some really good hybrids that
Yeah.
that
and
are a
you
little.
say genetics, and that is not GMO stuff. This is all just natural breeding. You know,
Correct.
You're not going to go out and find a GMO tomato. And even though you'll see tomatoes labeled, these are non-GMOs. Well, that's because they all are non-GMOs. Okay?
Right.
So don't fall for that. I need to buy this one because it's non-GMO. Well, the other one's non-GMO, whether it says so or not.
But being a hybrid does not mean that it's that means that somebody's put in a lot of work.
Somebody's done natural breeding over time, crossbreeding. That's what hybridization is, just crossbreeding.
That's how zebras came about, or something like that.
That's how our individual family lines came about. You know,
that's exactly
so, yes.
right.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to selecting varieties of corn to plant for sweet corn, everybody likes peaches and cream.
Peaches and cream is one that's been around a while, and how sweet do you want it?
Yeah.
Because you have sweet and you have super sweet, and you
Now,
have
if you want to eat off
really
the cob, or are you
super.
going to want to have fried corn? I mean,
Exactly. And so some folks, there are some folks who are traditionalists that prefer some of the older varieties for cut corn, to put in the skillet and to fry it like that. But for corn on the cob, I don't know if majority of people do. Many people really like the sure enough sweet corn.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been some changes, some improvements in sweet corn as far as the sugar content. So there are some of these that are really called super sweet, and the sugar content is much higher. But if you like just a good sweet corn, peaches and cream is one that's been around a long time. Typically, seeds are very available for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the really, really sweet ones, you can, you can order those seed in. Now, sweet corn is, it's possible you may have a GMO sweet corn.
Now, growing up, we would have two kinds of corn out of our garden. We had sweet corn and field corn.
Field corn.
Yeah, which was not as sweet,
right?
But to me, it was just as good, but in a different way.
For frying corn and
Yeah.
so on, field corn always.
Yeah.
Hands down, that would be my choice for
Yeah.
fried corn.
Yeah.
Sugar content not as high, and usually a little bigger kernel.
Now, before you do all that, you got to get your garden spot ready.
Yep, get it ready.
And this would be the time of year where my dad would put the plow on the back of the tractor and turn the
ground.
for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and then get the disc out and get it leveled,
it down,
smooth it down some.
break those clods up, smooth
And
it out
so
some.
from a is there any difference in what you want your soil to be in your garden spot as opposed to your yard?
From a fertility standpoint, they can be very similar to one another.
Okay,
very similar. Now you will.
But do you want to add? Do you want to add manure? Do you want to add compost?
If you're a serious gardener,
right?
Anything that you can do to improve the organic matter content of the garden spot is an advantage. It's a plus. So adding some compost on a regular basis, find
you a good cattle farmer.
Yes, chicken manure, chicken litter is a good, really good. It's typically more nutrient dense. But I will caution folks though about using manures today, because and I'm saying like cow manure, horse manure, things like that, because there have been a lot of advances in weed control for pastures and hay fields. From an animal health standpoint, these things are incredibly safe.
But it goes through their system.
It will pass through their system in the manure, and some of those compounds can remain in that manure for upwards of a year, and so it can't tell the difference. That compound can't tell the difference between a cucumber and a tomato plant, and so there have been a lot of disappointed gardeners that bring in tomato plants that are showing signs of herbicide damage. So there haven't been any herbicides used, and we started investigating a little bit, but did you apply manure? Well, I did.
Yeah.
So if a cow or a horse has consumed grass or hay that's been treated with some of those products, then you do not want to put that in your garden. But compost is a great option.
Okay.
Excellent option. Add to your vegetable garden. But as I started to say, if you are a traditional gardener and you've got an in-ground garden, when you get through the garden in the fall of the year, that's a great time to plant maybe some crimson clover out there, or maybe some vetch and some wheat or some ryegrass and wheat, something like that. That does a couple of things. One, it keeps the ground covered so you don't have as many winter weeds show up in there. And two, you've got a lot of biomass that you can work into that ground when you plow it. You're creating your own compost. You call it green manure. So you want to work that ground up, probably 6 weeks ahead before you want to try to plant something in there, so that that has time to break down and you're building that organic source naturally. And if you're using a legume like clover, you're adding a fair amount of nitrogen to the soil also.
So, but if you want to purchase some fertilizer, or is it best to again get that soil
test,
get the soil test done? Go out there, get you some samples. Take it out to the extension office on John Rice Boulevard. Again, that's the easiest way to do it. It's going to cost you $20, and you'll find out you'll get a report back that tells you what you need to add to that area.
And I think I started on this path a while ago, and I jumped off of it. But the difference between a yard and a garden is you're typically going to manage that garden a little more intensely, and so you will probably look at applying fertilizer more frequently to a vegetable garden in the course of a growing season than you would a yard.
Right. And because there's some intense
there are, and there are different times of the year that they can benefit. Like when you first plant it, okay, that's good to get the crop up out of the ground, get it start growing. But then, like when your tomatoes start to produce and your sweet corn starts to get 12, 18 inches tall, then you want to come along and do what's called a side dress or top dress, some supplemental nitrogen to help that crop go ahead and reach its potential.
And get on the business end of a hoe.
Exactly
and
right.
Keep it cleaned out.
Irrigation is important, but a part of that irrigation ought to be supplied in the form of perspiration from the garden.
There you go. Exactly. Now, here's something. You talked about something earlier, and we can go over here a minute or two, but when we had the wildfires out in California, and we're having some fires up in East Tennessee this morning, they keep talking about how the forest areas were not cleaned out enough, and it caused issues.
Greater fire risk.
Fire risk. Mm-hmm. So if folks have a cedar glade or whatever on their property here, how do they need to manage that as far as keeping it in a safe manner?
Well, I think big, and of course now you're getting into something that's kind of outside of my realm,
right?
But you're talking about forest management, basically,
right?
Woodlot management. You're talking about maybe removing a lot of this deadfall stuff so that you don't have fuel, just right. So much dead-free fuel laying on the ground, and periodically, going in through and doing some cutback of some understory stuff to keep that population down lower. Greener, if you will, would be a way, I think, to do that.
Yeah. Well, you've got a retirement coming up in May. This may be your last time with me before your retirement, but I may be calling on you to come and just share some, all the knowledge that you've soaked in over these years. But you've been great to come on, and I've learned more about yard maintenance and gardening and stuff with the hours that I've spent with you than anybody I can remember.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. And again, uthort.com.
uthort.com.
And that's where you can download those calendars that give you your chore list for your garden or your lawn.
Yep.
And get those tomato plants going. We want some tomatoes on the 4th of July.
There you go.
All right. Mitchell Mote has been our guest today. If you missed any of this, you can catch it on the podcast section of wgnsradio.com. Brian Barrett standing by next, and stick with us all day right here on the Big G, WGNS. Have a great day, everybody.
WGNS, Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
Premier 6 Theater on Broad.